Hey, everybody, welcome back to another segment of AWS On Air. I am one of your hosts today, Todd Fortier. I'm a senior solutions architect here at AWS, where I focus on developing solutions for the AWS Solutions Library. And today, I'm joined once again by one of my favorite co-hosts, Adrian. Hey, how you doing, man?
Hey, John. I'm doing all right, man. We got to stop meeting up like this. I swear at some point people are going to think we're, bots or some sort. But hey, folks,
Yeah.
my name is Adrian. I am a principal partner and enterprise architect here at AWS, helping partners get stuff done. When I'm not doing that, I'm kicking it on AWS On Air with Todd and our other hosts. But understand we got a pretty interesting launch to talk about here in a couple minutes, Todd. Chat, spoiler alert, and I'm going to ask Todd the same question. What's your favorite thing to use about the identity and access management service? Because we're going to be talking to a PM and a senior principal SA from that service here momentarily. Todd, what's your favorite part about it?
Oh, yeah, here we go. You put me on the spot here. I
I
would
got it.
say I am, well, first of all, managing credential access, particularly through the Cloud Shell. I often find myself, as a developer for a number of years, I also often found myself logging into the AWS console, launching a Cloud Shell, doing some programmatic reset of a password so I could do that. So having that access right there through the Cloud Shell to be able to developer-friendly interact with IAM was just a feature I used often. So I don't know if that would be my favorite, but something I'm certainly familiar with. What about you, Adrian?
Fair enough. For me, it really depends, and I hate to say it in that manner because if I'm using it, if I'm put on the partner persona hat, being able to assume and do cross account roles, that is the single best biggest boon to put it effectively put an end to the use of single use passwords or access key secret identity keys. And I can keep going on forever, but instead of boring everybody from hearing it from me, let's bring on our PM, our guest. All right. And now, thank you so much for joining us, Pallavi and Mike. Do you mind taking a quick second to say hey to everyone and let us know what you've been working on?
Sure. Hey everyone, I'm Pallavi. I'm a principal PM on the EC2 team, and I am working on a new governance launch in addition to that.
Hey everyone, I'm Mike. I'm a senior principal engineer. I work primarily in the EC2 space, but I've also been doing some work in the governance space as well. And I'm really excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, welcome to the show. So we were just talking just before the show. Again, I was saying this is not an area I'm particularly familiar with, but two words I like how it sounds: declarative policies. Can we just start what does that term mean? What do we mean when we say declarative policy? What does that mean?
All right. Declarative policies, as the name suggests, help customers declare and enforce durable intent. So this could be something like, desired baseline configuration for a given AWS service across their entire organization or unit or account. So for example, you can simply state with a declarative policy that I do not want any public access in my VPC. And AWS takes care of all of the underlying complexity to ensure that it's true for your environment.
Okay, I think I get it. So let me. I'm gonna kind of maybe take a little step back and say, okay, within AWS, you can have multiple accounts, and within those multiple accounts can be organized into a thing called the organization. So how do you control, if you're the managing account, the governance of those individual accounts within that organization? One of the things that you can do historically is set service control policies, where you dictate how what things can be enabled within those sub accounts. And here we're talking in the same realm, declarative policies. We want to make sure we impose configurations on what can and cannot occur within those accounts in an organization. Did I summarize that right?
Yeah, sort of. It's more about setting, hey, it's more about setting, okay, I want the configuration of my environment to look this way, or I want EC2 to behave in this way across all my accounts. So think of it as sort of a central baseline or a set of baselines that a central governance team or administration team will like to enforce.
Got it. So instead of restricting what can be turned on, we're saying we just want this environment to look like this, and and we're going to
Exactly.
declare what that. Okay, got it. Very cool.
Are you getting it?
And so I understand that what you set this once and you forget it. This kind of takes me back to the infomercial days when I was in college. I'd hear that, set it and forget it, and we would.
Oh man,
And I'm kind of thinking that. Is that where you're at, Adrian?
you dated me. You say when you're in college, I was already well into the workforce at that point. I mean, just making me feel real old here, man. But is there any chance we could see this in action?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get going with the demo.
Okay.
Okay, so what are we looking at here? We've got, it looks like we're logged into the AWS console, and we're within, which service are we in here, Mike?
Exactly. So this is the AWS Organizations console. And so what we launched is declarative policies for EC2. And so this is going to be integration of EC2 attributes with organizations. And so where this is going to show up is under the policies tab here. So I'm going to expand this out for a little bit more room. And in organizations, you have a number of different kinds of policies. You have backup policies, tagging policies. We recently launched chatbot policies. And what we launched today is declarative policies for EC2. And so what these allow you to do is set a number of attributes that control how EC2 acts. And so it basically allows you to set the state for your organization in one place. So my plan here for the demo is just to kind of walk you through kind of the broad strokes of what these policies look like, and then enable, and you can kind of see one in action going forward.
And Mike, before you get going, quickly, I just had a question, chat. How are you doing this today? And is this something that you think you might jump on pretty quick? Because I know selfishly I am.
Yeah, you read my mind, Adrian. I wanted to hear from the chat as well. Are you using EC2s? Are you using policies to control those EC2s? Organizations, do you have more than one account that you're responsible for? Let us know in the chat where you're going to hear that. Okay, Mike, back to you. What are we getting into?
Awesome. So let's get started. So what we're going to do is we're going to enable this new policy type. And so just by clicking this button here, that basically allows me to create new declarative policies for my organization. Now, as a customer, I might have a bunch of accounts, and those accounts might have different configurations across them, and I want to try to align those to a single configuration. And so we think the way customers are going to find this really helpful is first by getting a sense of kind of readiness for what is the current state of my organization, and then applying a policy that kind of sets that that configuration and kind of enshrines it for kind of all time going forward. So one of the actions in the screen is actually a view account status report that will give you that snapshot of what does my organization look like today. I'm going to show you that, but first I want to kind of go through a policy just to kind of give you a high level idea of kind of what kind of attributes we're talking about here. Okay. So to kind of start me on my journey, I'm going to click Create Policy. And if you're familiar with AWS Organization management policies, this is similar to other ones such as backup or tagging policies. And so let's just create a simple one here. We'll call it Demo Policy. You can give it a description. This is just for the demo. And you can, of course, add tags to it as metadata. Now, the crux of a declarative policy is a number of service attributes that you'll add to the policy. And I'm going to go through those in just a second. But one thing that's maybe a little bit different about this type of policy than other policies is we allow you to set a custom error message. And so if you've ever had a situation where you're trying to configure your AWS environment and you get this error that you don't fully understand, it can be really frustrating.
Yeah, that has never happened in the history of anything.
Oh, I'm sure never, right? And so what this allows you to do is when you set this policy, it's going to set the configuration for the accounts in your org. And if one of those accounts tries to change that attribute, they'll get this custom error message back. And it could be, hey, go talk to so-and-so in cloud security, or it'd say, hey, check out this internal wiki page. You can use this message for whatever you want. And just a little bit helping hand if someone gets stuck hitting an error message of why they might be seeing it or what they can do to unblock themselves.
I think it should say PC load letter. If anybody gets that reference, let me know in the chat if you get that.
That is our custom error message. PC
okay, load. Got
it. I'm sure it'll print flawlessly. So currently with declarative policies for EC2, we support 6 different attributes. And some of these attributes you might recognize if you've ever played around with EC2's existing account level settings. So for example, you have image block public access, which restricts your ability for anyone in your account to share an Omni publicly. And so by adding image block public access to a declarative policy, you can then up-level that and prevent anyone in your entire organization from sharing an image publicly.
I'm sorry, did you say Omni or AMI? Because I know what I heard.
I said Omni. It wouldn't be a re:Invent without a discussion on this topic, but
yeah, let's the debate start. We're gonna get sidetracked on this conversation. It's just like when I was developing, we'd mention Git workflow and amongst a group of developers, and just sit back and let the hours tick by. But AMI, I'm gonna start calling it AMI now, just for Adrian.
I think this was an opportunity. I think we should have had a declarative policy of how to pronounce it correctly.
There you go.
There you go.
All right. So what we found with a lot of customers is they would set these they would set these account level attributes. But one of the challenges is as organizations grow, you add accounts over time. And so even if you go through all your accounts, kind of turning it on one by one, you can't kind of set this policy kind of enshrined for all time. And so one of the goals here with declarative policies is you can kind of capture this for new and upcoming accounts. There's a couple of new service attributes here. Pallavi mentioned VPC public access. That's another feature that we launched just this month that is configurable via declarative policy. So you can control for all of the accounts in your org, whether or not they're allowed to egress through an internet gateway. And then we also, along with this launch, we're launching a feature called allowed AMIs. And what this is it kind of complements the image block public access feature. So for image block public access, it says for your AMIs, are you allowed to make them public? Allowed AMI says, for your account where you're running instances, which public AMIs are you allowed to run? And so these could be Amazon verified provider AMIs like Amazon Linux or Ubuntu, or it could be AMIs from your organization. So a lot of customers use like golden AMIs, like a specific account might produce AMIs that everyone else is supposed to consume. Maybe they have some on-box agents that they run as part of their security and compliance.
Yep.
They want to make sure that they always come from that one account.
Mike, real quick, just for our audience that may not be familiar with the terminology, what is an Amazon machine image high level?
Sure, absolutely. So an AMI is kind of the base set of software that your instance uses when it boots up. So it includes the kernel, and then all of the packages that are installed kind of at the base layer. And so it's kind of the CD-ROM, if you will, if we're doing all the dated references that you're booting your host from.
Got it. So these are specific configurations that either Amazon or AWS has developed, or maybe a third party, one of our sponsors has developed AMIs that they make available, or you can develop your own and then persist those configurations and share them within your organization so that you're launching the same configuration. Okay, got it. So when we allow AMIs, we're only allowing certain configurations of EC2 images. Got it. Okay.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so let's go ahead and add a couple of these. I'm going to add the two I just kind of talked about here, the image block public access, and we're going to do allowed AMIs. And so for block public access, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this on by setting block view sharing. So basically what this means is that for any new AMIs I create, I'm going to prevent any of my accounts from making them public. And then for allowed public AMIs, I'm going to enable this, and I'm going to add some AMI providers. So one AMI provider you can add is just the Amazon provider, which basically means anything that is an Amazon verified provider. So like Amazon Linux, Ubuntu, this. And then let's say I have a specific account in my organization that vends golden AMIs. So they are the ones that are producing AMIs that is kind of the base image that everyone else is using. So I'm just going to switch tabs, and I have this test account here. And so there's an account ID. And so I'm going to say this account here is going to be my provider that everyone else in my organization must use. So they can use like an Amazon Linux AMI, or they can use one of these provider AMIs. All right, so at this point, I'm going to go ahead and create my policy. And again, at this point, it's just a policy. I haven't actually attached it to my organization. And before I do that, I want to go check out that account status report that I kind of mentioned at the beginning. So I'm going to go over here. And what I would like to do is generate a new status report to kind of get a sense of what is the current state of all of the attributes across all of my accounts in my organization. It's just kind of a really bird's eye view of like, how do things look today? And so to do this, you provide an S3 URL. So I'm going to throw in something that I set up for this demo. So declarative policy report this is where the results of the report will go. And this is just a copy separated value file, CSV file will go there. And then you can say, what is the scope of this report? So I don't want to run the report over my entire organization. Usually what you want to do here is pick the same place in the organizational structure that you're going to attach an account, or sort of attach a policy. So if you're planning on attaching the policy, say, to just an OU, then you should run the report on an OU. If you're just going to do it as an account, you can do it there, or you can do it for all the accounts in your org. So I'm going to go ahead and kick off this account policy report generation. This takes a few minutes. So I'm going to do kind of the baking show thing and show you a policy that I generated earlier today. It's kind of see the result. And so what I've done here is just waited for this policy to complete. It shows up in my S3 bucket. I downloaded it from my S3 bucket. And since it's a CSV file, one way to look at that is just using Microsoft Excel. So this is what you'll get out of that CSV file. It's basically a list of all the account IDs, the regions, the attributes, and their current setting. So I kind of swapped out the account ID here for the demo, but you'll see like, that 12-digit AWS account ID. And you can see for image block public access, and I've actually added just a filter here on image block public access. You can see there's other things in the report. But since we were talking about PPA a second ago, I went ahead and added this filter. And so we can see everywhere in all the regions, I've set block new share. And so what this says to me is it's actually a pretty safe thing for me to add this declarative policy because I know it's basically matching what my organization looks like today and guarantees that as my org grows and I add new accounts in the future, those accounts will always show up with this setting in place.
I mentioned previously in my day-to-day work, I work with partners a lot, Mike, and also Chad. If you're a partner, would love to hear from you on how interesting you think this may be. Me personally, work with a ton of partners that have implemented automation and orchestration into golden AMI creation, tons of workflows to eliminate the total number of support individuals having to go and maintain these things. So let's say a new CIS hardened benchmark, AMI comes in, it goes through, their orchestration goes through, pulls it, and slips in the aforementioned agents and the other things that they need to make it their version. I can see a world where partners and other large organizations just define that as this is the account that our AMIs come from. This is how we're going to access them, and you can only pull it from this location. That way, it's just another checkbox to ensure that you're hardening and invoking the best possible practices to ensure that your accounts are being vended the assets they think they are. This is pretty slick, I'm going to say.
Awesome.
Yeah, Mike, I'm trying to understand this report a little bit better. So help me understand when I would run this report. So you're saying you ran this report at a root level, and you're trying to understand what attributes of the accounts in there have this image block public access set. And
Correct.
then you can find gap. And then what do you do with that knowledge? You're saying you can find gaps in any of that within an account so that you can plug those gaps, or so that you can create the policy that is consistent with what you want to do. Am I on the right track here? I don't know if I'm.
Yeah, exactly. And so, there's a kind of a couple of ways I think you can think about this. One is I have an organization that has a policy that's never really been enforced, but I didn't ever want any public AMIs. And I kind of told everyone to do that. And it was kind of a good intention that they did so. But it's my expectation that this is set everywhere. And anywhere it's not set, that's a mistake and I should go fix it. And so what this report would allow you to go get a bird's eye view of like, what is this set everywhere for all of my accounts? And I can see if there's any places it's not set. The other side of it is that we've definitely heard from customers that organizations in practice can be a little bit messy. There might be that one account over there that actually does need to have public AMIs because they're sharing them with a third-party vendor, or there's some case where they won't allow them. So you want to get a sense of like, where are the expected deviations across my org? And so I might want to apply a different declarative policy to those accounts or OUs and have them run by different governance rules than, say, my broader organization.
Okay, yeah, thanks for clarifying that. I mean, that's probably my lack of experience, but I want to make sure that we get to all of your demo here. So what else you got for us with just a few minutes out?
So let's just show it real quick. I'll go ahead and attach it to my org. And so I in that policy in the account demo, I saw that the test member account was pretty much uniform. So I'm going to go ahead and attach it to that account. And at this point, what's happening is you're applying the policy to actually the EC2 system. So it's rolling out to all of your accounts, to all the different AWS regions. And in the subsequent small number of minutes, what will happen is that account, that control will take effect so that any future AMIs that are produced for this example would not be allowed to be set public. If we have a quick second, I can just show this on the CLI.
There's a few seconds left here, yeah.
All right. So basically, if I do get image block public access state, which is the EC2 API that returns the state on whether or not this setting is allowed, this has a new field which it says managed by declarative policy. And then if I try to call, let's try it again, disable image block public access, I get this helpful error message that says there's declarative policy attribute violation, and there's a custom message, PC load letter.
That's how we know it's live.
Yep, exactly. So that's how we know it's live.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Mike. Paula, before we wrap up, was there any additional last thoughts you'd like to leave the group with?
So the key takeaway here is always use declarative policy if the configuration outcome that you're trying to achieve is supported by it. Why? It's simple. You can set it up with a few simple commands. It's transparent. You can assess readiness. Your end users have visibility. And finally, it's set once and forget, right? Like once you set it, the configuration is always true when we add new features, APIs, or there is flux in your environment. That's the key takeaway for declarative policies.
Awesome. And if the audience wants to learn more about it, I'm sure we're going to have some links to share.
Yeah, we have a news blog out today that you can go check it out, or you can also go take a look at our official documentation. Yeah, those are good resources.
Awesome. Pallavi, Mike, thanks for coming on the show. Great demo. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Thank you.